My name is Deidre Sumner. To the United States Navy, I am a commander with O5 rank and a senior intelligence officer for the Pacific Fleet. I hold a top-secret clearance that would make my brother's head spin. I have briefed the Joint Chiefs on Chinese naval movements. I have tracked nuclear submarines through the Taiwan Strait. I manage assets and information that shape national security policy. But to my family, I am just Deidre, the towel folder, the underachiever who works at a gym probably needs a loan. It started 18 years ago as a misunderstanding. I told them I worked in an administrative capacity for the Navy. My mother heard paperwork and somehow decided I was a secretary. Then I mentioned I was doing physical training, and she decided I worked at a gym. I tried to correct them. I really did. But my family has a talent for hearing only what makes them feel comfortable. If I were the failure, then my brother Tyler could be the golden child. It was a narrative that suited them. Tyler is an investment banker, or rather, he works for a bank and handles mid-level portfolios while acting like he runs Wall Street. He drives a leased BMW and wears suits that are slightly too shiny. He is the definition of what we call a blue falcon in the military, a buddy fucker, the kind of guy who smiles to your face and throws you under the bus the second it benefits him. For years, he has used my failure to prop up his own ego. He introduces me to his colleagues with this sad, pitying smile. He says things like, "This is Deidre, she's finding her path." Or his favorite line, "She keeps the towels folded at the local gym. Honest work." He loves it. He feeds on it. And for 18 years, I let him do it. It was better operational security than any cover story I could have invented. Let them think I am nobody. It keeps the questions away. It keeps the classified world classified. But then my grandmother Evelyn died. Grandma Evelyn was the only one who knew. She was a Navy nurse in Korea. She knew the look in my eyes when I came back from a deployment. She knew what it meant when I said I couldn't talk about work. She never asked. She just squeezed my hand and slipped me a whiskey when the others weren't looking. She was my anchor. And now she was gone. I was in Tokyo when I got the call. I was coordinating shared tracking protocols with the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force. It was high-stakes work. I had to request emergency leave, reroute through 3 different civilian flights, and drop off the grid. I made it back to Norfolk 36 hours later. I was exhausted. I was grieving, and I was walking straight into a hostile environment. My mother hugged me at the door. Her first words weren't about Grandma. She pulled back and looked at my travel clothes. She asked if I was able to get time off from the gym manager. She asked if I would lose my hourly wages. I just nodded. I didn't have the energy to fight it. I said the gym was very understanding. Tyler was in the living room holding court. He had spreadsheets spread out on the coffee table. He was already calculating the cost of the funeral, the reception, and the flowers. He looked up when I walked in. He didn't stand up. He just gave me that tight little smile. He asked if I took the bus from the airport. I told him I took a cab. He grimaced as I had just wasted his inheritance. The next 2 days were a blur of funeral planning. Tyler made sure everyone knew he was paying for things. He made a show of signing checks. He sighed loudly whenever he looked at the bill for the casket. He treated me like an intern. He told me to fetch coffee. He told me to carry chairs. He told me to sit in the corner while the adults talked business. The night before the funeral, Tyler cornered me in the kitchen. He poured himself a scotch and didn't offer me one. He leaned against the counter and gave me his serious big brother look. He said we needed to talk about the future. He said Grandma didn't leave much money. He said he knew I was probably counting on a small inheritance to help with my rent. I stared at him. I make a base salary that exceeds his, not including my housing allowance and hazardous duty pay. I have a retirement portfolio that is fully funded. I own a condo in Virginia Beach that I rent out. But he looked at me like I was a stray dog hoping for scraps. He told me not to worry. He said he and his wife had discussed it. They were willing to give me a small monthly stipend for a few months. Just until I got on my feet, maybe I could take some classes. Maybe I could get a certification to be a personal trainer instead of just the towel girl. He was enjoying this. I could see it in his eyes. He was the savior. I was the charity case. I took a breath. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him I had men and women under my command who were better people on their worst day than he was on his best. But I didn't. I just said thank you. I said he was very generous. I played the part. One last time. For Grandma. The funeral was at St. Andrew's Episcopal. It was a traditional service. I wore a simple black dress. My dress blues were hanging in a garment bag in the trunk of my rental car. I had debated wearing them. Protocol allows it. Grandma would have loved it. But I didn't want to cause a scene. I wanted the focus to be on her. So I stood in the back in my civilian clothes. I listened to Tyler give a eulogy that was mostly about himself. He talked about how hard it was to be the responsible one. He talked about how Grandma relied on him. He managed to mention his job title 3 times in a 10-minute speech. He didn't mention me once, not even as a footnote. I sat there and took it. I kept my face neutral. It's a skill you learn in intelligence briefings. You don't react. You absorb. The reception was in the fellowship hall. It was crowded. There were finger sandwiches and lukewarm coffee. I stood near the wall holding a plastic cup. I watched my family work the room. My mother was crying dramatically to her church friends. My father was looking lost, and Tyler was holding court near the buffet. Then he saw me. He waved me over. It wasn't a friendly wave. It was a summons. I walked over because I didn't want to make a scene. He was talking to Reverend Michaels and a man I didn't recognize. The stranger was wearing a tailored suit and an expensive watch. Tyler had his arm around the man's shoulder. Tyler introduced me. He said, "This is my sister, Deidre." He paused for effect. He said, "Deidre works at a fitness center downtown. She helps keep the place tidy. Towels, equipment, that sort of thing." The stranger smiled politely. It was that same pitying smile. He asked if I enjoyed the work. I opened my mouth to give a vague answer, but Tyler cut in. He said, "It's good for her. Low stress. Deidre isn't really cut out for the corporate grind. She prefers a simpler pace, don't you, Dee?" He called me Dee. I hate that nickname. I felt a sharp, cold anger rising in my chest. It wasn't just the insult. It was the total lack of respect. It was the assumption that I was less than him, that my life had no value because it didn't look like his. The stranger nodded. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. He handed it to me. He said he owned a commercial cleaning company. He said they were always looking for reliable staff. He said if I ever wanted to pick up some extra shifts, I should give him a call. He said the pay was minimum wage, but they offered flexible hours. Tyler beamed. He looked so proud. He thought he was helping. He thought he was solving the problem of his loser sister. He clapped the man on the back. He told me I should say thank you. He told me this was a great opportunity. That was the moment. The exact moment. I looked at the business card. I looked at Tyler's smug face. I looked at my mother, who was nodding encouragingly from a few feet away, and I decided I was done. Operational security be damned. The mission had changed. I was about to speak when the double doors of the fellowship hall swung open. The room went quiet. It wasn't just the noise of the doors, it was the energy. 2 men walked in. They were wearing dark suits. They had earpieces. They moved with a specific kind of predator grace that you only see in federal agents or special forces. They scanned the room in 2 seconds. They identified every exit. They identified every threat. They weren't looking at the buffet. They weren't looking at the pastor. They were looking for a target. My family froze. Tyler looked confused. He took a step forward. He assumes he is always the person in charge. He asked, "Can I help you, gentlemen?" He used his best investment banker voice, the voice he uses to intimidate waiters. The lead agent ignored him completely. He didn't even blink. He walked right past Tyler like he was furniture. He walked straight to me. The room was dead silent. You could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. My mother gasped. She put her hand to her mouth. She thought I was in trouble. She thought I was being arrested. I could see the panic in her eyes. She was probably wondering if she had enough money for bail. Tyler turned around. He looked angry now. He thought these men were debt collectors. He thought I had brought shame onto his perfect funeral. He started to say, "Look, whatever she owes, we can discuss this outside." The lead agent stopped in front of me. He snapped his heels together. It was a sharp, distinct sound. He stood tall. He raised his right hand in a crisp, perfect salute. He held it for a 2 count. "Commander Sumner," he said. His voice carried to the back of the room. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. I returned the salute. Muscle memory took over. My posture shifted. I wasn't Dedra the towel folder anymore. I was Commander Dedra Sumner, United States Navy. I dropped my hand. "Report," I said. My voice was different, too. It was my command voice. The agent dropped his salute. He handed me a secure briefing folder. It was red. That means immediate priority. "Ma'am, Admiral Richardson sends his condolences on your loss. He also sends his apologies for the intrusion." I took the folder. "The Admiral is too kind." "What is the situation?" "We have a developing situation in the Pacific Theater, Commander. The disconnect notices started 20 minutes ago. The Admiral needs you in the SIF immediately. He requested your personal assessment on the new satellite intel. We have a bird waiting at the airfield." A bird means a helicopter. The room was still silent, but now the silence was different. It was heavy. It was confused. Tyler made a noise. It was a choking sound. "Commander?" he squeaked. "Admiral?" The agent turned to look at Tyler for the first time. He looked him up and down. His expression was bored. "Sir, please step back. You are encroaching on a secure perimeter." Tyler stumbled back. He looked at me. His eyes were wide. "Dedra? What is this? You work at a gym." I looked at my brother. I really looked at him. I saw the cheap suit. I saw the fear. I saw the smallness of him. "No, Tyler, I don't." I turned back to the agent. "Give me 2 minutes to secure the perimeter here, then we roll." "Copy that, ma'am. We'll have the vehicle ready at the curb." The agents stepped back. They took up guard positions on either side of me. They faced outward. They were protecting me from my own family. I turned to the group. The pastor's mouth was open. The cleaning company owner was holding his drink halfway to his mouth. My mother looked like she was having a stroke. "Mom," I said, "I need to go. I have to go back to work." "Work," she whispered, "but the towels." "There are no towels, Mom. There never were. I am a senior intelligence officer for the Pacific Fleet. I have been for 18 years. I hold the rank of commander. That is an O5 pay grade. I outrank everyone in this zip code." My father stepped forward. He was trembling. "But you said administrative. You said paperwork." "I analyze threats to national security, Dad. That involves paperwork. It involves deciding where we send carrier groups. It involves keeping people like you safe so you can sleep at night and worry about what the neighbors think. Tyler found his voice. This is fake. This is a prank. You hired these guys. You're trying to embarrass me. I laughed. It was a dry, harsh sound. Tyler, you aren't worth the paperwork it would take to organize a prank like this. These men are federal agents. That car outside is government property. And I am about to get on a helicopter to go brief a 4-star admiral. I took a step toward him. He flinched. And by the way, Grandma knew. She knew everything. We talked about my deployments. We talked about the stress. She was proud of me. She didn't care about the rank. She cared that I was serving something bigger than myself. Tyler turned pale. Grandma knew? She knew you were a pompous ass, too, I said. But she loved you anyway. God knows why. I looked at the cleaning company guy. I pointed to the business card in my hand. I won't be needing this. But thanks for the offer. Minimum wage sounds tempting, but I think I'll stick to my current salary. I didn't mention that my signing bonus alone was more than he probably made in a year. I didn't need to. The look on his face was enough. I walked over to the casket one last time. I touched the wood. Bye, Grandma. Fair winds and following seas. I turned to leave. Tyler grabbed my arm. It was a reflex. Deidre, wait. We need to... if you have this money, if you have this job, the funeral cost, the estate. I looked at his hand on my arm. Then I looked at his eyes. He was already calculating. He was already pivoting. If I wasn't the failure, then I was the bank. He wanted me to pay. Remove your hand, I said softly. The security agent stepped forward. He didn't speak. He just moved his hand to his jacket. It was a subtle threat. Tyler let go like he had been burned. I already paid for the funeral, Tyler, I said. I called the funeral home yesterday. I covered the casket, the service, the flowers, and the reception. I even paid for the open bar you've been enjoying. You paid? I also paid Grandma's medical bills for the last 5 years, I added. You thought her insurance covered that experimental treatment? It didn't. I did. I wired the money directly to the hospital every month. I didn't want the credit. I just wanted her to be okay. My mother started crying again. Real tears this time. Oh, Deidre, why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to see if you could love me without the title, I said. I wanted to see if you could respect me just for being your daughter. And I got my answer. I didn't wait for a response. I turned and walked out. The agents flanked me. The doors swung open. Outside, the air was cool. A black Suburban was idling at the curb. The lights were flashing. A police escort was waiting at the end of the block. The neighbors were all outside watching. They were staring at the car. They were staring at the agents. I climbed into the back seat. The leather was cool. The air conditioning was running. It smelled like government standard cleaner and filtered air. It smelled like home. The agent closed the door. The sound was a solid, heavy thunk. It sealed out the noise. It sealed out the fellowship hall. It sealed out Tyler and his cheap suit and his small, petty world. I looked out the tinted window. Tyler had followed us out. He was standing on the sidewalk. He looked small. He looked confused. He was holding his phone, probably trying to Google my name. He was realizing that the narrative was gone. The sister he could look down on didn't exist. She never had. The driver looked in the rearview mirror. Destination, Commander? Naval Air Station Oceana, I said. Don't spare the horses. Yes, ma'am. We pulled away. The siren chirped once to clear the intersection. I watched my brother disappear in the side mirror. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't sadness. It was lightness. I opened the red folder. I started reading the briefing. Satellite imagery of the South China Sea. Thermal signatures. Real problems. Real stakes. I took a deep breath. For 18 years, I had been folding towels in their minds. But in the real world, I was a warrior. And finally, the two worlds didn't have to touch anymore. I was free. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to the funeral director. Tipped the catering staff extra. Put it on my card. Then I turned off my phone. I had work to do. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care what my family thought about it. The Admiral was waiting. The fleet was moving. And Commander Sumner was on duty. The ride to the airfield was quiet. I let myself feel the vibration of the heavy engine. I thought about the look on Mrs. Michaels's face, the pastor's wife, the one who had looked at me with such sweet, poisonous pity. She would be telling this story for years. The day the towel girl left in a motorcade. It was petty to enjoy it. I know that. An officer should be above such things. We are trained to be stoic. We are trained to be professional. But I am also human. And after 18 years of eating dirt, the taste of victory was sweet. I thought about the money. Tyler would be furious that I paid the bills. Not because he wanted to pay them, but because it took away his control. He couldn't hold the debt over my head. He couldn't play the martyr. I had stripped him of his favorite weapon. The car sped up as we hit the highway. The escort vehicles blocked the ramps. It was a smooth, efficient operation. The Navy takes care of its own. I touched the rank insignia in my pocket. I hadn't worn it on my dress, but I always carried it. A silver oak leaf. It felt cold and hard. It was real. Tyler's BMW was leased. His status was fragile. His world depended on the opinions of others. My world was built on facts, on duty, on things that actually mattered. The driver spoke again. "Ma'am, ETA to the bird is 10 minutes. The pilot reports ready for lift." "Understood," I said. I leaned back and closed my eyes. I wasn't going back to that house. I wasn't going to Thanksgiving this year. I wasn't going to listen to any more lectures about my career path. I was done folding towels. The text message from Tyler would come eventually. I knew it. He would apologize. He would ask for a loan. He would try to leverage my new status for his own gain. My sister, the commander. He would try to spin it. But it wouldn't work. Not anymore. I had burned that bridge with a tactical nuclear weapon, and I didn't regret it for a second. We turned onto the base. The sentries saw the flags on the car and snapped to attention. They saluted. Sharp, crisp, respectful. I watched them as we passed. That was my family. The men and women in uniform, the ones who knew the cost, the ones who didn't need me to pretend to be small so they could feel big. I was home. "We're clear to the tarmac, Commander," the agent said. "Very good," I replied. I checked my watch. I was 3 minutes ahead of schedule. Grandma would be proud. She always hated being late. The car stopped. The door opened. The sound of rotor blades filled the air. It was loud. It was chaotic. It was beautiful. I stepped out onto the tarmac. The wind whipped my hair. The helicopter was waiting. The crew chief waved. I didn't look back. I walked toward the noise. I walked toward the mission. I walked toward the life I had earned. My brother could keep the towels. I had a fleet to run.